So as you can see, this finish looks like crap. It's been so humid. We've had so much rain here, and I apologize for the background noise. I have my exhaust fan on and then my inflow air conditioner on to get the temperature and the humidity down as much as possible. We stained this and clear coated with lacquer like normal, but just the humidity is causing us all kinds of problems. I've already sanded the top coat down with 220 just to smooth it out and get it as thin as possible. And now I'm going to show you a trick that Eric Reason showed me to get this blush out, and then we're going to slowly build up 2 more coats and fix this top where it looks good. So this is our starting point. I have lacquer retarder and lacquer thinner. I've got my gun here. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is, one, get my gloves on because I don't want to get any more of this on my skin as possible, or than necessary. And we are going to put about a 50-50 mixture in here of lacquer retarder, and then about a 50% mixture of lacquer thinner, and we're going to soak that top after my kids get out of here. Alright, got my kids safe. I've got approximately a 50% mixture in here. Probably more than I need. I don't like mixing up more of this than I have to. And we're going to spray a thin coat on this top over here. So I do have my respirator on. So all I did was just mist that on there, heavy enough for it to look like a coating, and then it's going to soak in, redissolve the lacquer a little bit, and hopefully allow that blush to release. So we got some good news here. Our 50% lacquer retarder, 50% lacquer mix has really gotten that blush out of here, and we have a very nice thin first coat of lacquer. I'm going to go over this with some 320 sandpaper, wipe it down really good, and then I'm going to put 2 light coats of a lacquer retarder and lacquer thinner mix. So I'm probably going to go about 50% lacquer, 25% lacquer thinner, and about 25% retarder, just because it is so incredibly humid. If it's not that humid where you're at, I'm in East Texas near Houston. We've had, NOAA levels of rain the last few days, and it's also up to 80 degrees. So I've really got to cut this down and do those light coats and let it build up slowly. Where I messed up is I tried putting too thick of a coating on without too fast, and that caused me issues. And I'm just going to keep that retarder in there real heavy so that it slows down that dry time and lets that water vapor escape out as it's evaporating. So pro tip for sanding. This is an old sanding pad for my, I think this is my, oh, that's old school. That's actually no, I just bought this at Home Depot. This was a replacement pad for a Ryobi sander, 5-inch random orbital sander. But as you can see, I just glued on a block to give myself some grip. And these are great little sanding pads because maybe you've got a pad that's tore up a little bit or isn't sticking well, or this guy's worn out on your sander, and so it's slinging the paper off. That's how I started this. but it'll hold it on for hand sanding. And this gives you a nice little sanding pad that's got a little bit of flex to it, and that is just a great little sanding guy. So I'm going to hand sand this with 320 real lightly, and just basically get any nibs off, wipe it down good. Then we're going to mix up our lacquer and reshoot it. Alright, so here we go. I know that what's left in here is 50% approximately, guys. With this stuff, you don't have to be super precise because your mixture is it's just kind of an art form that you learn on how to do this. And lacquer is pretty forgiving in that regard. So, got my can of lacquer here. This is already 75-25 lacquer. I'm going to pop this open, stir it up good. And this is already mixed up lacquer with lacquer thinner, about 25% lacquer thinner to the gallon of that. And I just got a hunk of foam in there. That's too little one. Alright, so now I'm just going to stir this up good. Take my time and stir it up and get all the sediments, everything else in there. And I'm going to fill this guy up about 3/4, and then I'm going to fill it up the rest of the way with just the retarder, because I've already got lacquer thinner in here, lacquer thinner in here, and a little bit of retarder in there. And that'll get me approximately about half lacquer, 25% lacquer thinner, and about 25% lacquer retarder. Notice I'm not trying to get this absolutely perfect because it doesn't have to be. You just want to get these ratios approximate, and you kind of learn what works in your area based on the weather. That's one of the learning processes I've had with lacquer, is depending on the weather, you've got to mix this stuff different ways. You know, in wintertime when it's cold, like 50 degrees outside and no humidity, and you can spray this stuff almost straight from the can and you'll get a great finish. As it gets hot, you got to thin it down a little bit more. About 25% is that golden ratio for this product, and that gets us where we want it. So I've got my cone here. I just buy these on Amazon by the 500. Put that in there. And a little bit in there. I want to get about 3/4 full. Alright, so that's where I'm at. And so I'm about 75-25, a little bit heavy on the lacquer thinner. And I'm just going to add that much retarder. Now that's a lot of retarder for what we're doing. Now before I put my respirator on and start spraying again, let's talk about your volume. Basically, you want to spray at as low of a pressure that gives you good atomization. If you blow and go, open this thing wide up, you're going to have a huge fog anywhere. That fog resettles in it as it's drying, and you don't want to go too heavy. So I'm going to focus on some light thin coats, let it dry, let it build up. That lacquer thinner, that lacquer retarder will kind of remelt the underlying coats, and my top coat I might go a little bit heavy so it really takes its time to level out. But we don't want to build a really thick coat, and we don't want to do too many coats. About 3 to 4 coats of lacquer is max of what I want to do to get the look I'm going for. that's my second coat, and you'll notice as I sprayed, I turned down my sprayer. I'm not trying to put out a ton of material at once. What I'm looking for is a good volume, so I'm getting a good coat, so I'm not dusting it, and good atomization. So I want tiny little drops and a nice smooth coat, and I am keeping the pressure and the volume as low as possible to achieve that goal. I'm not setting a super wide fan, and as I'm moving, I'm overlapping my coats 50%. Okay? So as I'm doing it, every swipe is getting overlapped 50% at minimum, and I'm just taking my time, keeping that rate of motion nice and smooth so the coating is ending up well. And one thing you start to notice is right here, you're starting to see the reflection of the air conditioner in that. That's kind of what we want. If you look right here, you're kind of starting to see that reflection. And as this finish dries, normally lacquer would be dry in about 5 minutes, but because of the humidity, we really up the retarder to really slow down that dry time. So I mean, we're pretty much stuck right here until it's dry. And this is a semi-gloss, so we're not gonna get a perfect reflection in this, and this is pine, and pine naturally has an uneven grain pattern. No matter how much you sand it, those soft spots and those hard spots is still gonna give you that rustic vibe. So I'm not trying to read the AC logo in that. On a nice hardwood with a high gloss finish, I can get it. I can read you the temperature right there if I really want to. But this is a semi-gloss, so it has those flatteners in it. So this is about what we're wanting right here. There's a light right there, and that's why you're getting that harsh glare. And so you're seeing that, and that's what you want. That's the ideal finish. So what's gonna happen is once this is fully dry, we're gonna lightly sand that with 320 and do one more coat. And once that top coat's dry, we're done. I might lightly buff it with some 320 or maybe some 400, and then a lot of times I'll put like a little coat of paste wax on there just to give that little extra polish. But we're done after that. And so if you take your time and do this right, you get a good finish. And you can repair a finish that's gone bad. This one. So 3 light, even coats that are heavy enough to cover and gel together, which means it's enough to flow and not have an orange peel. And that's all you want with lacquer. Alright guys, I'm about ready to do my third coat.
Hi!
This second coat is looking a lot better than anything else I got with this top. I'm now just filling it. I let this dry for about 45 minutes. Went inside, ate dinner with my family, and then came out, got here to finish it.
And that's so cool we here.
I am gonna lightly sand this with 320, not to do anything else, but just to lightly buff the surface. So I've got my pad here with some 320 on it. I'm gonna make sure the pad's clean with nothing on it, and we're just gonna lightly. Basically the weight of my hand is on this right now, and I'm just going with the grain.
And I'm here so I can help.
You're here so you can help. And this has been sitting a while, so I'm gonna, swirl it around, not shake it, but just swirl it around, make sure it's mixed good, and then I'm gonna spray it out and clear my nozzle before I start spraying again. Alright, we're still waiting on this to dry, and the lights in my shop causing some pretty good glares. We're still waiting on that final leveling to happen. As it dries out, that'll go away, but you can see that there's 2 lights above me. That's a good sign. Good angle, good finish. Little tiny bit of orange peel, but that'll go away as we finish curing. Let me see if you can see some of the spots that are more dry than others. It's hard to see with the lights really reflecting, but you can see how the light blurs more right there. That shows that that's a more dry spot, and it's just slowly lining out what you can see. You can still see the reflection of the air conditioner above there. That's a good sign. As we come along, you can see the logo of the bandsaw right there. And you can see my cabinet rails from above. So that's kind of what you want with the finish we're going with. Again, we're going with a semi-gloss, and so it's not going to be as shiny when it's finally dry. But this is a good final coat. Alright guys, this took some work, but we got what we were looking for. My camera's showing a lot harsher glare than what we really have. You notice that now you can see the ridges in the sheen, but you can't see that there's two lights there anymore. That's actually what I want with this semi-gloss finish. Same thing is you can't really see the reflection of the AC anymore now that we're fully dry. But you can also get down on your finish and it's nice and smooth. And this roughness that you see right here, that is just pine. When you get this hard of an angle on pine, just the natural divots in the wood that can't be sanded out, you're going to see them. But now this is a super glass smooth, super smooth finish. And run my hand across it. No dust, nibs on it or anything. And now this is a finish we can be proud of. And you notice if you look down, especially on this harsh light, you're not seeing a high build. I don't want a super plastically look, and that's what we got on that first go of trying to fix it. So now we got a finish we're proud of. So this is 3 coats of finish, 3 coats of lacquer, and that is enough. It's nice and dry now, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to get some paste wax, and I'm just going to put a little paste wax coat on here. It's kind of a final polish. Okay, so now I'm just getting some paste wax, and I just use these shop towels, and then it's just wax on and wax off. So we got some wax. We're just going to buff that on. And this doesn't really do anything, but I love the way it makes it feel, and it kind of gets that just little extra touch goes a long way on something like this. It kind of fills in a little bit, smooths it out, and the goal with this is you just want to buff it in there, buff it on good, keep it thin. We're just going to get a good haze built up. You can see that dulled down the finish a little bit. Let's get that hard angle. You can see it where it's kind of built up. You just got to let that dry now. And so we're going to let this dry, and then I'm going to buff it off with a clean paper towel, and then this top is done. So this is our finishing process. It's pretty much the same even in lower humidities. It's just you put less and less retarder in until you get to about a 75 lacquer, 25% lacquer thinner ratio. Is pretty much the go-to ratio. And then you either add or remove lacquer retarder based on your humidity and the heat and all those other variables that go into this. Alright, so I've let this dry for just a few minutes. It doesn't take long. So I'm going to grab a clean paper towel and we're just going to start buffing this out. Very much the wax on, wax off kind of thing. And there we go. That's that final coat of wax. That's just that little extra. It's more for how it feels on your hand than it is anything else. In ideal conditions, you can start from a stained piece of wood to getting it finished in an hour. Ooh, yeah, let me see.
Can you glue this together?
Yeah, I can glue that together. We have a Captain America failure, folks.
Look here, he's fighting somebody.